Hey, Shalom, Shalom. This is your brother Yashamai from the Jam Master Atlanta camp. Before I get into this message, I want to start off by giving all praises, all glory, and all honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakwakadash, and I want to send double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone who rule and teach well. Just, I'm still in the spirit of this Cornelius issue here, or this Cornelius cut here. I think it was yesterday I had posted a message about, proving Cornelius was an Israelite. And, I just continuing on in that spirit, I just felt compelled to put this message up too, So this is Acts 11, okay? So this is, after the gospel is preached to Cornelius by Peter. And so this is Peter going into the, speaking with the devout Jews, right? Now, it's very important to understand why it says devout Jews. And we're going to go into the history of that. But first, let's start off with Acts 11. Acts 11, verse 1. And the apostles and brethren that were in Judea heard that the Gentiles had also received the word of the Most High. And when Peter was come up to Jerusalem, they that were of the circumcision contended with him, saying, Thou wentest into men uncircumcised and didst eat with them. Okay, so when we see the word Gentile here in verse 1, that word Gentile, we have to read these words within context, because the word Gentile, can mean the other 17 heathen nations, but the word Gentile can also mean an Israelite man that has abandoned his heritage and has taken the ways of the other Gentile nation. And I've done several messages on this, and I'll just give a quick example. I'm what you would call a Mexican, but I'm in America. So to the Mexicans that are in Mexico, that are living the ways of Mexico, that are under the rule of Mexico, that are under the holidays of Mexico, that are under the education of Mexico, that are under the beliefs of Mexico, to those Mexicans, a Mexican American like myself would not be considered a Mexican. If I were to go down to Mexico right now, because I was raised in Babylon, they would call me a gringo, right? They would consider me an American. And so I used this example to show you guys that when the brethren here, because, it says they that were of the circumcision, these are the practicing Israelites. These were the Israelites who had not abandoned their heritage. And we're going to get into that. Okay? We're going to get into that. Just like the example that I gave. Those of the circumcision would be considered the Mexicans in Mexico. And Peter comes to them and said, they're basically saying, why did you go with this gringo? Why are you going with the Gentile? Because again, Cornelius was an Israelite who had taken after the Roman ways. And we're going to get into that history too. And then I'm going to skip down to verse 5. It says, so this is Peter telling them what happened. He says, I was in the city of Joppa praying, and in a trance I saw a vision. A certain vessel descend as it had been a great sheet, let down from heaven by four corners, and it came even to me. Upon the which, when I had fastened my eyes, I considered and saw four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the earth, and fowls of the air. And I heard a voice saying unto me, Arise, Peter, slay and eat. So, see, the Christians would have you believe that basically the law was given in the Old Testament, and then just in one random chapter, Acts 10, that the Most High just shows up, brings a curtain down, and says, hey, Peter, check out these dirty animals, eat them, and then boom. So basically, without any explanation, the Most High just did away with everything. But it doesn't fit, because we know that the Most High does not change, right? But that's what the Christians would have you believe. But that's not what it was. The Most High didn't just show up randomly in a vision and give Peter the permission to break the law, because we know that Yahweh says that the law would never be done away with, that this world would pass before the law is done away with. And then we can back that up with Ecclesiastes verse 1 and 4, that says that one generation arises and one goes down, but the earth abideth forever. So in context, the law will never be done away with because the earth will never pass. So it doesn't make sense that the Most High would do away with the law. You know, the vision here was Peter going out and preaching the gospel to the Gentiles, and those Gentiles were Israelites that had abandoned the heritage. That's why it specifically says here in verse 3, thou wentest, verse 2, it says, and when Peter was come up to Jerusalem, they that were of the circumcision contended with him. Now, who are they of the circumcision? They of the circumcision are those that were abiding in the law, those that had never discontinued from the law. See, there was a difference, man, and we're going to show that difference. Let's get First Maccabees 2. And so this is the history. This is the history of when our people started taking onto the ways of the other heathen nations. You know, specifically the Greeks. And so there was always a separation, you know. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and start here in First Maccabees 2 verse 6, and it says, and when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, woe is me, wherefore was I born to see this misery on my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. So the enemy came and defiled our sanctuary, right? And then furthermore, as we're going to read, it was through a decree by these heathen nations that Israel was made to sacrifice abominable animals in our temple. Okay, so when this happened, there was a separation. There was a separation between practicing Israelites, just like we read in Acts 11 and 2, those of the circumcision, and the Israelites that would go on to take on to the customs of the Gentiles, man. So this is First Maccabees 2 and 12. And this is Mattathias talking, okay? Yeah, and he's seeing the defilement of the sanctuary. He's seeing our people defile themselves and take on the ways of the Gentiles. Okay, so Israelites were taken upon the customs of the Gentiles, but they were still bloodline Israelites, just like myself. I'm a so-called Mexican in America, and I've been raised in the wine, the views, the upbringing, and the beliefs of Babylon, but I'm still a bloodline Issacharite, a bloodline Mexican, right? Verse 12, it says, and so Mattathias says, and behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. And again, we have to take this word Gentiles and we have to use it within the context. And there are two kinds of Gentiles: Israelites that took on the ways of the Gentiles, and then actual Gentiles. So the context here, that word Gentiles here, is the other heathen nations, because they had started worshiping Apollo. They had started sacrificing swine's flesh, right? Verse 13, to what end therefore shall we live any longer? You know, so Mattathias is saying, what's the reason for living? So this is the history, okay? This is the history on Cornelius, because see, later down the line, because Cornelius, this right here is about 175 years before Yahushua showed up, okay? So when you fast forward to Acts 11, by then, Israelites had fully taken onto the customs of the Gentiles, man. But this is the history, okay? So verse 18, now therefore, okay, so verse 17, then answered the king's officer and said to Matthias, on this way, you are a ruler and an honorable and great man in the city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. So the king goes to Mattathias because he knows that Mattathias holds a high position in Israel. Okay? And we see Esau Edom doing this now. You know, goes to these celebrities, and these celebrities push the agenda. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. This has been a constant thing. Verse 18. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yeah, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain in Jerusalem. So shall you and your house be in the number of the king's friends, and you and your children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. So the king is telling Mattathias, come and sacrifice, but right here, like the men of Judah. See, other Israelites had already begun to take after the king's decree, and which he made it illegal for us to call ourselves Israelites. He made it illegal for us to circumcise ourselves. He made it illegal for us to follow our law. So the king's officers telling Mattathias, hey, just like your brothers have taken after our ways, you do it. Verse 19, then Mattathias answered and spoke with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away everyone from the religion of their fathers. Now, what is the religion of our fathers? The religion of our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is the law. That's what separated us, right? And give consent to his commandments. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. The Most High forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinance. So Mattathias was aware of the Israelites going after the ways of the Gentiles, but he said, me and my household, we're not going to do that. Okay? Verse 22, we will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right or the left. So this is a separation. Okay, so now we're understanding the context. Now we're understanding the history. Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar, which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. So now here we have a contrast. We have Mattathias saying, I'm not going to disobey the law. And then we have another Jew, another Israelite from the southern kingdom, going to sacrifice. So here's the contrast. Those of the circumcision, as you read in Acts 11 and 2, and then the Gentiles that those of the circumcision were speaking about. Okay, but the only similarity here is that they were both Israelites. One, though, obeyed the law, and the other one went after the ways of the Gentiles. Verse 24, which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment, wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. So now we have the history. See, this is why the men in Acts 11 were asking Peter, why did you go to those Gentiles? And again, those Gentiles was that Jew in 1 Maccabees chapter 2, which we just read, that were sacrificing according to the ways of the heathen, man. And they were upset at Peter because there was a separation. You see, our own people were selling each other out, man. And you can read about that in 1 Maccabees 7. Our own people are our own worst enemy. And, which is also lines up with one other curses mentioned in Deuteronomy 28. Your eyes shall be evil towards your brother. Right? So that's why the scriptures are very specific here. So now with that understanding, let's read Acts 11 again. It says, and the apostles and brethren that were in Judea heard that the Gentiles had also received the word of the Most High. Again, those Gentiles being the Israelites. And when Peter was a practicing Israelite, right? He was one of the disciples. He was practicing his heritage. And when Peter was come up to Jerusalem, they that were of the circumcision contended with him. So those that had not taken the ways of the heathen nations contended with them, saying, you went into men uncircumcised and did eat with them. So who were these men that were uncircumcised? They were still Israelites. But they were upset because there was a separation. There was a separation between the practicing Israelites and the Israelites that had left their heritage and gone after the heathen nation. We were our own worst enemies. And they were saying, why did you do this? Okay? So now we have the understanding, man. Just to continue harping on Cornelius being an Israelite, man. He was not a Roman. He was an Israelite, which again, you have to bring into remembrance that over 100 years had passed. So, Israel, Jews had abandoned their ways and taken after the ways of the Greeks. Then they had kids. So then they kind of grew up half Israel, half Greek. But then they probably got wives of the heathen nation. And so as you continue through the generations, they would forget their heritage, man. And so, some of them may have even been, white. Just like nowadays, we come across Israelites that they don't look like Israelites. But, the scripture says the Spirit bears witness, man. We are that speckled bird, man. But I'm going to end it with this here because, see, there's scripture also tells us that the Most High is not the author of confusion. See, the Most High didn't just show up again and tell Peter to do away with the law and start to eat unclean beasts, man. Those unclean beasts are representative of Israel putting off the holy flesh. Now what is that holy flesh? The holy flesh is our heritage. Okay? But the Most High is not an author of confusion because what do we know about Cornelius? Cornelius received the Spirit. And what does Wisdom of Solomon 1:4 says? For into a malicious soul, wisdom shall not enter. Now, what is wisdom? Wisdom is the understanding of the Most High. And we get wisdom through the Spirit. So the scripture is saying that the Spirit will not enter into a malicious soul, nor dwell into the body that is subject unto sin. Now, from there, we get the word malicious, and it makes it very clear. Malicious is harboring ill will, enmity, or hostility, showing ill will, spiteful, or wicked. Wicked, malicious. So the Spirit will not go in to the body of the wicked. Now, who is the wicked? According to Malachi 1:4, we know that Esau is the border of wickedness. According to 1 Maccabees 1:9, we know that once these Greek generals crowned themselves, that evilness increased. So and then we know through 2 Thessalonians 2, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called the Most High, or that is worshipped, so that he is as the Most High, sits in the temple of the Most High, showing himself that he is the Most High. So this is the wicked. And who's doing that? It's one group of people. It's one race of people doing this, man. So just to bring it back full circle, man, Cornelius got the Spirit, and the Spirit cannot dwell within the wicked. It can only dwell within the righteous. All right? That's what we just read in Wisdom of Solomon 2. I hope this lesson has been edifying, and until the next one, I say shalom.